Okay, guys, it is April 11th, 2018. It's a little after 7 p.m. The regularly scheduled Conservation Commission hearings and meeting will commence. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I just want to pass on one quick note here. We have a pretty busy agenda, and so out of respect to everybody in the room, if anybody has a discussion or a presentation that's going to be protracted, we'll open it, we'll hear it for 5 to 10 minutes, and then if it looks like it's going to keep going, we'll stop hearing that one, we'll bounce it to the end, and we'll take the next one. That way there, people don't have to sit here all night. So with that being understood, do I have minutes approved?
Okay, Deb, did you read?
I did, I read the minutes.
Without Merrill tonight,
Oh,
so.
okay, yeah, yep,
The minutes of March 28, 2018 are on the table.
okay. I motion that they are approved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. The minutes are approved. Public hearing, small project, NACC number 93-660, Great Pond Road, Rolling Ridge Conference Center. Farm renewal. This is NACC number 93, small project.
So as you recall, you have it in their annual report in your packets, but annually they come to us to renew their small project permit to continue farming at Rolling Ridge. We've had some different farmers over the years, but I think we've been pretty consistent for the past couple of years. Some other people have rolled in and out to potentially farm other tracts that are there, but at this point, they're all being worked by the same group of people. So with that, I'll let you present last year's report and what you intend to do this year.
Last year was our third year farming the quarter-acre plot out of the area that was originally approved, which I believe was 1 acre, was the original approval for the first farmer there. We grow a mix of vegetables and a couple of fruits. We give 90% to Neighbors in Need and Lazarus House for the food pantries in Lawrence and Methuen, and then 10% is provided to the kitchen at Rolling Ridge Conference Center for their guests. We want to expand into a larger area that within the area originally approved, but for a different farmer, and so we would just be expanding our vegetable operations and putting in some blueberry bushes.
I'm going to let the commissioners, if they have any questions, ask you some questions. Okay,
Sure.
Start with Mr. Lynch.
No questions, I love what you guys do year after year, and you've been very responsible, so keep it up,
Thanks.
if we approve it.
Okay.
Is the, is the name of the new farmer part of the submittal?
I'm Emily Strong. I've been part of the
Yeah.
garden committee for the
remember
last
you
3 years.
last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
been here a couple times.
It's just going to be your group.
Yes.
Oh, I thought a new farmer was coming in.
There was a farmer, Dan Berube, who came before you, I think 2 years ago, farmed for that year. It didn't come back, and so we're moving into the land that he
Okay.
left behind.
Okay.
That's the expanded area. And last season, what we did is we prepared the ground just in case that the Giving Garden wanted to continue its operations and to expand. And so we were able to kind of continue to prepare the land with cover crops and so forth. So this year, we're getting ready to kind of give it to them for their use.
I'm clear. Thank you.
Deb, any questions?
Okay, how are the beehives?
They're doing well. I haven't heard a report from the spring, but the last report over the winter was that they were both hives were still alive.
Okay, good. So you don't have killer bees out there or anything like that?
What's that?
You don't have killer bees out there?
Of all the kids we have coming to volunteer, we haven't had any bee stings, but we do get honey.
Okay,
which
good.
is a
And even with
bonus.
the school groups that come through, we haven't had any reports of major problems with bees at all. So.
Okay, good. So when they come and visit your farm, do you show them beehives and everything?
Yeah,
Okay.
not up close, but
Yeah.
we talk about the bees and their importance for the farm.
Cross-pollination. Okay, thank you.
Doug, are all your crops grown organically?
They are.
That's what I thought.
Just another question. Since I was I participated in an organic ingredient audit this past week. Are your organic products certified?
We haven't gone through any certification process, but we don't add anything to the land. We use Kid Power to pick caterpillars. We've applied organic compost from Brick Ends Farm, and limestone, excuse me, but that's the only thing that we have applied. So we haven't applied any pesticide fertilizer or any fertilizer beyond compost.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one quick one on your area of expansion that you show in the photo. Is that going to be tilled? You tilling that up?
We're doing, it was tilled 2
Okay.
years ago. We're using no-till.
No-till
So we're
farming
do-
this year?
Right.
Fairly level?
There's a slope.
Is there? So you're tilling across the slope to prevent runoff down there?
We're going to put blueberries on the slope,
Yeah.
and they'll sort of be terraced in, each one with its own circle, but we're not going to do any further tilling.
Okay.
of the
If you
land.
do, it's not a problem. Just what we like to see on slopes, side slopes, is tilling across the slope rather than straight up and down.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. You probably know it, but we like to mention it.
That's already in their plan.
And it's in the plan anyway.
Yep.
All right, very good. All right. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the,
Renewing NACC 93, I believe.
for one more year, NACC 93.
Motion and second discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next item up is request for determination of applicability, 177 Salem Street, Ridgewood Cemetery. It's an RDA. Wherever you want, you can stand, or you can, there are microphones at all positions, so it's your comfort level, sir.
So this is the structure.
Joe, we're going to have you on TV no matter where you go, so.
I have
You got it?
I have
Okay.
that.
You want this one? Jen, how do you want to start?
This fairly straightforward project. This is an existing structure at the cemetery. I forget what date you told me, but it's old, very old, predates the Wetlands Protection Act that it's been on site. This is a historic restoration of that building.
Okay.
Part of the work will be to raise the building and pour a new foundation underneath it, and it is right on the stream. Literally, there's a embankment, and the stream is right below. But as I said, it's been there historically, so this is a restoration project. I don't think any waivers are required per the work. And with
Do you want
that,
us to just ask questions, or did you want to give a? Sure. Joe,
I think it's probably,
It's-
from that
yeah, I
would be
think it's
best
pretty
to know the,
Foundation technique.
yeah, how they're gonna do it.
all right.
So I think generally speaking, just shore up the building, jack it up. We're going to take probably two different approaches, either compressed power shovels or maybe a little mini excavator, like a really small one. And we don't have to stockpile, we can pull it to the side and take it right out of there. It's not a big job. I don't recall the exact size of the structure, but it's a kind of an old horse and carriage, one-story structure.
Just like a frost wall, 5 feet footing,
That's it.
civil foundation, block of wood.
Poured with, and then I think we're going to do like a cut stone on the exterior to keep its look as a
Just
historic
make it look
structure.
like, yeah, okay. And what are you proposing for protections around that excavation area, on the wetland side?
We already put a silt sock in. We tend to keep them down there anyway, just in case with the landscapers. But we can do whatever Jen feels is necessary.
Is it pretty flat down there, Jen? Or
It
drops
right
off, right? Yeah.
So, I
So
mean,
it's
they
not
do need
enough?
something. The only thing about the sock was it was installed in winter, so we should just take a look at it now that the snow's pretty much melted away and make sure it's in good condition.
Where the construction is, it's absolutely level, but then obviously there is a
Behind
bank.
that, it drops away.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to control anything that comes out of that excavation?
Absolutely.
Before it goes over the edge?
Absolutely.
And it's a garage? It will be a garage when it's done?
It is now.
It is now, and
It
it will
used to-
be...
We used to park, I think the horse and the hearse vehicle used to park there in the 1800s.
So what's it going to be used as in the future?
So right now, we're just, the structure is actually ready to implode. So we got CPC funds to reconstruct it, and we're essentially going to keep it kind of as it is for now.
So it's a garage,
Yeah,
like maintenance, storage and stuff?
yeah.
It's not our main storage structure, so there's not a whole lot in there, but there is
So
equipment that's...
what I'm really driving at is under the more permanent use, once the construction's done, pesticides, herbicides, chemicals, oils and, fuels, none of that stuff, right?
Gas-powered engines?
Well, again, we have 2 other storage buildings, that's where most of the power equipment is kept. But there may be a few, like off-season, like once they're done with, backpack blowers and things like that, they're generally drained, and then they may be put away for
Just
the
dead
winter.
stored, no pun intended.
Maybe they have a lawnmower that from time to time they would keep in there.
Right.
But we're going to pour not just the foundation, but we'll have a slab as well inside.
There is no slab right now.
It's
That's
just
an
dirt.
improvement. All right, I'm all set.
Approximately the dimensions of the building? Yeah, I looked in there, I didn't see it.
I'd say it's probably 30 by
15.
15 or 14 now.
Is it? Okay. I'm just thinking about conditions, for a negative, for an RDA. No stockpiling in such close proximity to the brook is probably, I'd suggest that as being appropriate. Erosion control,
Concrete washout.
outside,
Yeah, we would condition no washout
Yeah, yeah.
and no stockpiling adjacent to the building. You could stockpile maybe over on the roadway or something, or on a tarp.
I think
or-
they'll excavate out into the gravel area and then take it out.
It's the building. I don't know if you want me to pass the picture around or not.
What's it on, timber cribbing just sitting on the ground now?
Yeah, yeah.
And some old rocks.
Yeah, box.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Could-
garage.
Could we would you mind, Jim, giving us a look at that? Thanks. It's a beauty.
It is nice.
Yeah, it is.
It's an oldie.
30 by 15, it looks about right, too. Yeah. Okay. Okay, washings outside, concrete washings outside the 100-foot buffer zone. No stockpiling within the 50-foot build zone, I would suggest. Inspections?
Yeah, so we'll do pre to look at that erosion control and then post just when you're done. So-
So you said it's part of their standard procedures, they keep a silt stock back there?
No, they did it in anticipation of doing the work,
Oh, okay.
but
It's in place.
like I said, it was there over the winter, so we should probably just take a look at it. It may be adequate.
But I was taking that to mean that they had that as a permanent
No,
protection. We don't need to make that in the future.
nope, take it out when you're done.
Good, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
What about a monumentation plan, Jen?
Oh, so that was for the area, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it, about where you remove the material, what you
prefer
wanted to do, or if you, I mean, you and I can talk about that, we don't have to talk about it with them, I just showed them the photo and what, I showed,
We've started the process, so we've had 2 excavators and multiple triaxles there. As we discussed, we pulled that whole slope to tow the slope back. This is a different area. Back at least 20 feet. We probably have, by the end of today, 3-to-1 or less grade.
it was looking pretty good.
Yeah.
So they're pulling material out of where they were stockpiling soil, it was overtopping and falling into the wetland, so it's all been pulled out. And as long as it's okay with you, we'll discuss some kind of monumentation plan at the toe of that slope, so that if they use that area, that kind of thing won't happen again.
If you're going to be on the site, that's acceptable.
Okay?
Any other questions? Any abutters here for this? No abutters answer. I guess we're ready for a motion on the -3.
I move that we issue a negative number 3 determination for 177 Salem Street, Ridgewood Cemetery.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep, I'll take those.
Yeah, we'll send them over to Jen. Send this on.
That's Jen's.
Send it all over. She can put it in the record, on the record. Thanks, Jim. All right, next up, notices of intent, 242-1721, 562 Boxford Street. This is continued from November 15th, 562 Boxford.
So you have materials in your packets. This was before the ZBA last night, and I was hoping that we'd get some kind of direction as to which way the ZBA was going to go on granting or not granting the variance, but as it turns out, they didn't act on it and didn't give any indication because they wanted to make sure the health department was going to approve the septic plan, which in speaking with the health department, they are going to grant the waiver. You also need to grant a waiver because it's within 100 feet of a vernal pool, and the requirement for septic systems and vernal pools is that they be more than 100 feet away under your bylaw. The Board of Health has that for all wetlands, but anyway, I think those issues should be resolved fairly quickly, but we'll have to wait another month to get a vote from the ZBA. With that, I talked to Mr. Melvin today about things that still needed to be on the plan, including monumentation, a stockpile area, a construction access, and dewatering. So they submitted a revised plan late today. It looked to have all those things on it, although I know I'm sure you'll want to discuss monumentation. So with that, I'll let Mr. Melvin present.
So, my name is TJ Melvin with Christensen and Sergi, here on behalf of the applicant, Cirrus Development, for the project at 562 Boxwood Street. As Jen said earlier today, we're sending emails back and forth trying to get any other items that may have been missed, and just wanted to come back and get the commission's, any other issues that may be outstanding before we wait the next month until we hear back from ZBA and try to address any comments you may have in the meantime.
This plan does have the, as you recall, there was an existing house on the site. That's on the left side of the plan. On the right side of the plan is the new proposed structure, moved outside of the 50-foot no disturb zone to the ephemeral pool habitat. It still remains within the 75-foot no build zone, but so was the pre-existing structure, as you see, which was also in the no build zone. So they have moved the house farther away and outside of the 50 as you requested. Pending approval from the ZBA, of course.
The Board of Health has already taken action?
I spoke to the Board of Health today, and you go ahead, TJ. Just email.
I had a hearing with Brian this morning, and they approved the plan, and he'll be sending out the letter next week. So all review comments were met, and he granted the variances this morning.
Okay. So with that being the case, what we're looking at this waiver is because of the existing house and because of the existing system both being non-compliant. This is really an improvement, even though it's a new facility, new house and a new septic facility. We wouldn't normally consider a waiver on a new facility, except that it's replacing an old one. That's why we're justifying the waiver.
Right. Well, and there was some trading of lot lines on this property, to which I also commented to the ZBA, and it gave the applicant more property to the left of the side of the lot, and where initially they had given, so this lot is technically new.
I'm just trying to get a baseline for the waiver. I mean, on a new system, we wouldn't normally go there.
No.
But because of all that, it makes sense that we do that.
Right. Everything about the old house was probably less conforming.
And monumentation is because of the past use of the land having issues. We want to make sure the new use that, it's clear where those limits are. Is that what you see, that need?
Right, although, yeah, so, I mean, they don't have a strict 50-foot no disturb zone, obviously, that would put the yard right at the house and with the system at the back, and there is very little quote-unquote yard. I would recommend as sort of mitigation that there be some planting in that area where there is no sort of overstory shown. There is a lot of scrub in there, but I'm assuming site clearing activities will result in them being able to clear that out and do some planting. There's that big tree that's down right in that area, so I think they could do some cleanup and some restoration plantings.
So more than just monumentation, but some restoration.
Minor, but I think it's a good point of mitigation.
Okay. I'll also put another.
Wasn't that proposed? Yeah, when we talk about waivers, we often talk about alternatives analysis, and I think this is my first time looking at
Oh, yeah,
this
we
one.
do have this has been
Yeah.
going on for months.
I would think so. And it looks like with the shape of the lot and the position of the wetlands that I think it would be impossible to get that septic system out of the no-build zone. So I would be satisfied with the alternatives analysis based on that. I guess, did you say there was a revised plan?
This is the.
This is it?
Oh, no,
Not the folded one.
There's a unfolded one that's revised, that has
Oh,
the
this is it
stockpile
here.
and all
Oh.
that on it.
Okay. and then it's
On the back side's the construction entrance. Nope, that's another file.
this one. So there's a stone wall on here as well?
No, I
There
think the
isn't.
monumentation is 4x4 posts is what's proposed now.
Oh, okay. We usually go for more than that for monumentation. That's a long distance, but we'd like to hear what you might propose to make that a little bit more visible and permanent.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can certainly do it like a 2x2 stone wall if that's something the commission would prefer to see then.
You've got a tree line there, I see, where your posts are, and then you've got a more open area. That open area seems to be more vulnerable.
That's where the plantings, I was suggesting that
Okay.
they do some planting.
Okay. It sounds like they're related, so I'll let you guys come up with a recommendation for that. I'm all set.
Yeah, we did, I'll go down the table, but we did talk about some stuff at the last meeting, right?
Okay, I don't have any further questions.
At the last meeting, I think we talked about the stone wall for
Okay.
the area. I'm pretty sure that was
Okay.
put on the table. I don't think it was an option.
Okay.
Here's my question.
Board of Health's not waiting for our decision on the waiver, but ZBA is?
I think the ZBA said they were waiting for the Board of Health, but
Yeah, last
So
time.
we don't, if we continue, we're not slowing down any other process.
well, if we close, which I'm not opposed to closing, we
But we don't have,
they.
we don't have the wall shown on.
Right, they're going to revise the plan, but
Okay.
even at the next meeting, ZBA isn't going to have met yet.
Okay.
But if we close and they don't grant the waiver, then they're going to have to come back to amend the order. I mean, that's kind of up to you, whether you want to request that we close at the next meeting when you have the revisions in. I'll draft the order, but if
Yeah, I
you want to
guess-
wait for the ZBA, that's up to you.
I guess, yeah, we could probably just talk about it the next week or so and decide what the best way to go about it is.
So no harm in continuing.
Well, like you said,
No,
we
we
need
just
to
got-
for the wall plan.
We've just got to tell TJ what it is we absolutely want on the revised plan, and so that we can close it. The wall sounds,
And plantings.
do you want a planting plan, Jen, or do you want to do that in the field?
I think they can just pick, choose some plants that you would use,
Okay.
and then you can pick from them and just give us a sort of maybe mark out an area as well as a number of plants.
Okay, and I'll run it by you before we submit the
Yeah.
plan, make sure.
It can be a narrative, it doesn't need to be.
Okay.
You can just hatch the area to be planted or something.
Okay.
Okay, so between the plantings and the stone wall, I'm not aware of any other outstanding issues or items. Anybody else have anything else?
You could vote on the waivers if you were so inclined.
We can and we should. So the waiver is requested for the installation and for the continued existence of the house.
So it would be for work in the no disturb zone, because there'll be some site work and grading in the no disturb zone to the ephemeral pool. Construction in the no build zone to the ephemeral pool, which, again, through the alternatives analysis, they move the house farther away. And for construction of the septic system within 100 feet of ephemeral pool habitat.
I move that we approve said waivers as stated by Jen.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve those waivers as described. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. So you have your waivers.
Thanks.
You, 2-week continuance, good for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Move to continue till the next meeting, April 25th.
Motion and a,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so you're continued. So you come back with the revisions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks.
So this should be a real easy one.
Don't jinx me. Don't jinx me by telling me it's going to be an easy one.
Yeah. Well, I think everything we requested was submitted on the plan in a timely fashion. They have their,
Okay, so this is 242-1729?
Ann McMenamy from Hancock Associates,
213
representing...
Berry, okay.
Yes, the applicant, Jonathan Bonney from 25 Hesper Street LLC.
Very good, thank you for getting that all on the record. You can go first.
Okay, so we were here 2 weeks ago, and there were a number of items that needed to be added to the plan. Let me just start in front of this. The first, there was 2 wetland flags that Jen had hung out there, 4A and 6A. Those were field tape measured and added to the plan. They are right in the vicinity of the shed, which is right in this area. There was one there, and then there was one over in this area. We have added the no disturb zones. We've maintained the 25-foot typical zone in this area. That's the wooded part of the lot that nothing will occur on. However, we've been advised that we could have a less extensive in the area that's currently the yard for this home. We've got a 10-foot in the pink red here, and we've got a 5-foot at our pinch point right at the corner of the house right there. We added a note in an area that was a suggestion by one of the commission members about annual mowing. That is this green area that back to the 2002 order of conditions had been labeled as lawn, and there's a little fence out on the wetland that was out this area. You might recall, when I was here 2 weeks ago, I talked about that I had revised the wetland boundary that previously went out something like this. And so we've got a note also on the second sheet, on the detailed sheet about the annual mowing. There was concern, or there was interest in grassland birds, ground nesting birds, so we specified the mowing to be between September and October or November, something like that in the fall when they're not using the resource. And then we also added a note about the trash to remove by hand. There's actually quite a bit of trash out there. It's in the buffer zone, but it's also within the wetland, so it's really, again, near the shed mostly in this area, but there's also a propane tank that's over in this area that rolls off.
Okay.
So we submitted a revised plan to the commission a week ago with those changes and the revision date, and I think we've met all the information requests that the commission had put forth.
All right, let me see if the commissioners are happy.
Okay.
That's what I recall being the issue the last time, so I'm all set.
No questions.
Okay, and we have to vote on the waiver?
Yep,
for
once
the
we,
shed? Okay,
and that's
I understand.
excellent, no, I appreciate that. Are there any questions on the proposed work at all? Do you have any? Doug?
No.
You good? Okay, so as Deb pointed out, you need some waivers to be approved.
Yes.
You need a waiver. You need a waiver approved for
I think it's just the no disturb zone, because the house is staying in its current location.
just work in the no disturb and remove the shed.
That's right.
So moved.
And do mitigation by replanting native species with a shed.
All right, so that's the subject of the waiver.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous for the waiver. And as you pointed out, the annualized mowing is part of the overall notice.
I put it in the conditions, so it's ready to close and issue if you're inclined.
I'm sure we are. Anybody feel moved to close it? Everybody says they're ready.
I believe that we call this decision. Within 21 days. I think I'm a lot faster.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. You're closed.
Okay, so we have our certificate of compliance from 2002 on this, a little later on the agenda, but I also noticed, I just have a question for the board. The last thing on the agenda before adjournment was decision on this. Do I understand now that you voted to issue a positive order of conditions from, okay, just want to
So
be sure.
I'll review the conditions with them, but that you don't need to stay for any input. If you'd like to vote on the certificate of compliance, we were holding that because the septic system that is on the property wasn't,
We'll handle it right now.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So that septic system, as you recall, had a timber retaining wall rather than a stone one, but that point is now moot, since they will be removing the septic system and connecting to sewer. So I recommend you issue a full and final COC for 2421117.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is unanimous.
All right,
Thank you
so
very
you're good.
much.
I think you're in good shape.
Thanks for your help on working with us.
Thank you, that's great. All right.
Next item on the agenda is 535 Salem Street. I don't see a DEP number on there, is that correct?
No, and so I had put in my notes to ignore that because this isn't a DEP filing. This is an NACC because it's a local filing
All right.
only.
All righty, very good, so no DEP number necessary. So 535 Salem Street, Sullivan Engineering. Mr. Sullivan is ready.
Yep. For the record, my name's Jack Sullivan, owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. For this project, as Jennifer stated, it's just a local filing. There's an isolated wetland to the rear of this property. It's 1,400 square feet. William and Sparagus flagged the wetland for us. All the work is outside of the 50-foot buffer zone to this isolated wetland. What the owner is seeking to do is an existing single-family house with a breezeway and a single-car garage. He'll be demolishing the breezeway and the single-car garage, constructing a new breezeway with a 3-car garage, and relocating the driveway from Salem Street over to English Circle. So this property's on the corner of English Circle and Salem Street. A portion of the breezeway addition and a portion of the 3-car garage will be within the 100-foot buffer zone. The closest point to the isolated wetland from the corner of the garage is 79 feet. A few things to note. The driveway off of English Circle has to conform to DPW driveway standards. It's been designed as such. As part of that, they want drainage not to go out onto the public way, and you have to contain it on site. So we're showing an 18-inch wide by 18-inch deep crushed stone infiltration trench on the low side of the driveway. Also, when English Circle was built, the way they graded off the road, there's a natural swale that exists between English Circle and the subject property. And in order to maintain that flow, that's the flow that feeds the isolated wetland out back, we're going to have to put a culvert under this driveway. So there's a 12-inch HDP drain proposed under the driveway just to keep flow moving the way it has been moving. On each end of that pipe, there'll be a riprap spreader just to slow any velocity. And the pipe will mimic the existing grades on site. You'll see there's a specimen 40-inch tree that we're protecting as part of this project, and a 12-inch tree. And that's about it, really. There is some tree growth by The garage addition that will come down, it's really just scrub growth. There's no slating of like large mature trees to be cut within the 100-foot buffer zone as part of this project. I do show a proposed stockpile area off of the existing paved driveway. That's outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. The existing driveway off of Salem Street will serve for the construction access, for the demolition work, and for vehicles coming on to do the slab foundation for the garage. And then the new driveway will be constructed after that fact, so all access will be off the existing driveway. This home just recently had an upgraded septic system that I designed as well. So there's a new owner who just purchased it, and he's looking to make these changes. I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions they might have.
I think I forgot to note, there's some debris in the wetland that needs to be removed. There's like some kind of small dump pile
Okay.
down low and all that scrub that's right off English Circle. They probably don't even know it's there.
And there had been some storm damage,
Yeah, there's some
like
trees
everywhere
that
in
need
North
to be
Andover, but
cleaned.
there were some trees, so if that's a condition that they can remove any of that debris, that's fine.
Looks like it's pretty straightforward. The, on the garage itself, is there going to be a perimeter drain that's going to need to discharge, directly?
No,
No?
no. Because it'll be a slab, there's no full base, so it's just a slab, there'll be no perimeter drain associated with that.
But with the existing garages being demolished and the new addition, is that just a breezeway coming across, or is it a closed building?
Just a breezeway,
Just, all right, fine, I'm all set.
yeah. And most of that's outside, most of the breezeway's outside of the 100 feet anyways, it's just a small section.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like you're respecting all the setbacks. What do you have planned for the culvert? You may have a detail on another sheet, but I don't see anything on this one.
For the culvert, it was just going to be a 12-inch HDP drain, flared end on each side, and there'd be a 4x4 riprap pad 12 inches deep on each side, on the up gradient side and the down gradient side. So that any water coming in, any sediment that would clear out in the riprap.
Yep.
And then as it moves down gradient, if there's any velocity to it in a higher end storm, the riprap on the down gradient side would dissipate that velocity as it goes out to the isolated wetland.
Does that have to be reviewed by the DPW or anything, just to make sure?
They do, under their driveway policy, they review drainage, so John might have some comments on that when he reviews it. He hasn't had any to date, but it's twofold. I have the culvert and I have the infiltration trench along the downside of the driveway, so he'll probably review both of those.
Really, what you have out there to begin with, the existing condition, is just country drainage finds its way off the road, wants to find its way to the swale, which finds its way to the wetland. Because of the introduction of the driveway, you'd be cutting off that country drainage up in the corner.
That's right.
This is just to get the water one side of the driveway to the other.
Just to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it moves, we're good.
Yeah.
And if DPW, if the town engineer approves that 12-foot, yeah, it
12
is 12-inch, yeah, 12-inch, I see it is in there, yeah.
And it's not a large drainage area, Jack. It's basically on the up gradient side, that's basically where the swale begins. I wanted to make sure I didn't trap any water in the driveway, so it's more as a conservative approach to the design.
I agree.
Yep.
I'm all set.
I'll say.
So,
I do think, for a couple of reasons. One, because these are new owners, and this is a small isolated area. Maybe just a couple posts, or they could be birdhouses or whatever they wanted them to be, with some wetland markers on them, because there are no trees out there, and people tend to go and do things when things are that open.
At the 25-foot.
Yeah, maybe just even two kind of off on either end.
Yeah.
I don't know if they wanted to do any planting in there, they certainly could, but the area is pretty scrubby right now. I'm fine, but just so people are aware, it doesn't get filled in by accident, or,
so what do you want? You want markers here?
I would think two,
So
kind of
type-
at the far end, so it kind of keeps the view open, but like I said, we've had people, I remember out on Boxford Street somewhere, someone used, birdhouses on posts as
That was my site, yeah.
I think it was a garage or something
for the
out there too.
bluebirds or
Yeah, put bluebird boxes
Right.
and monumented them.
If you want to make it, the owners here, would you be
Yeah, I mean-
okay with that, Matt?
Yeah.
Off the side.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll put conditions and you can choose
Okay.
what it becomes. Some people have done boulders or just something so it lets people know what the area is and that it doesn't,
The idea is to protect
Right.
the sensitive area.
it doesn't become the brush dump
Yeah,
or,
that's exactly right. If,
Okay,
Looks like 3 markers at the most.
yeah,
that's fine.
just so we don't have an oops in a year, you know?
Right,
All right, okay.
sounds good.
I wouldn't expect that it would be these owners, but. you
Well,
know.
no, I understand that. I'm just, you know, we've all been here a long time, and we see what
Yeah.
happens. Sometimes somebody hires somebody to do work for them, and
Yep.
the worker didn't get the word, and,
Well, that would be fine.
all right. If there's nothing else, I think we're ready for a motion.
So this would, there's no requested waivers, so this would just close and issue in 21 days.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any abutters for this project? No abutters answer, there's no discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks.
Forgot about the big houses. That's
Yeah.
Very nice. Liked it.
Okay. 242-1731-60 Deer Meadow Road. $1731 is what I have on my,
Yep,
do I have it right?
yep.
Okay.
I just got the numbers this morning, so.
Yeah, 60 Deer Meadow. Looks like the representative is ready to go.
Sent his nice colored plan in. Oh, he also gave me some photos to give to you.
That's a good size
Not one of
lot.
my best coloring jobs, but I think it'll.
Did you let the kids do that with crayons?
Is this,
So this
Just-
was before you for a septic system, so you have seen this before. The work for the septic system is done and has not stabilized because it was finished at the, as you recall, the winter of last year. But that's a good picture that just shows the slope that needs to be stabilized.
This was the project that Peter Breen had to build a road to get down to the bottom. Came out really good. So good that they want to do the other side of the slope. And you can see from the photos why they want to do it. It's failing. There's been several attempts over the years to stabilize it with pieces of rebar driven into the slope, boulders, rocks, everything just rolls down. And the slope itself is settling. We think what happened was material wasn't removed when it should have been removed before they dumped the fill in the back. The deck that was built off the back of the house has settled over a foot to the point where they've had to jack it up. So our thought and the design shows giving them more space behind the house that's somewhat level and then grading it down to as much of a manageable slope as we can. The areas that are green would be no steeper than 2 to 1 and 3 to 1 where we can make it. So that can be vegetated. The area that's shown as gray is steeper. It's 1.5 to 1. And as a result, we're proposing to hog it out, put in silt fence, key it into the top, put down stone, and then flat boulders packed in to make it a boulder slope. We considered just dumping riprap, but that would just keep rolling down. So I think this is a much better design. And we do have a note that a geotechnical engineer will inspect the excavation before the fabric's placed, just to ensure that it's as stable as it can be. We've talked to the contractor. It's going to be Peter again.
What sort of fabric?
It's
Is it jute, or are you talking like a geotech?
so this is a geotech fabric
Geotech, all right.
below the stone. And what Peter's plan is we're showing just a mulch sock with silt fence along that edge. But what he wants to do is bring in those large rolled up hay bales, turn them on their side, so when he dumps the stone from the driveway, anything rolling down will hit the bales and not end up down into the wetland, because it is a very, very steep slope. And that would be temporary, and then once the boulders are there and he's working, they'll remove the hay and probably end up spreading some of it on the slope. But the septic system install was a success, and we've been monitoring it all winter long. It's still unvegetated because we were late in the growing season, but we do expect that to be a success as well. Very expensive install. But it was different enough that we couldn't amend the current order of conditions, and we know the commission doesn't like to issue multiple orders, but it would make the most sense here to get everything done at once and come in with 2 COC requests if a new order is issued for this.
So just to point out to the bylaw, in the 50-foot no-build zone says retaining walls can be allowed if there is no alternative. I would say, there's very little alternative
Really
to
not a
reinforcing
retaining wall.
this slope.
It's really a revetment.
Yeah, I mean, we're calling it a boulder slope. But if we had to come in with a waiver request, we'd certainly do that. But I think this is more of a boulder slope than a retaining wall.
Well, I think even that is, the riprap slope would be considered structure in the 50-foot no-build zone. But as I said, it doesn't require a waiver if there's no alternative. And I think, given this presentation, there seems to be very little alternative to reinforcing that slope.
I think we went through the alternatives analysis on the other filing.
We did. And we're staying outside the 25. There's no additional trees proposed to be cut. There's some small shrubs on the slope, I think mainly multiflora rose, that have been kept at bay. Those will go. But I do think this is somewhat more of a permanent solution moving forward, and I know the property owners are excited.
Is all the disturbance outside of the 25-foot no disturb zone?
It is. Very close to it, but outside.
When do you propose to engage consultation with the geotech guy?
Well, we'd have to work out the logistics with the contractor to find out what his start date was and try to line somebody up.
And I don't have enough information of the soils out there to be concerned, other than some of the performance that you've described in your narrative. And that's the settlement underneath the deck, which is not a real heavy load, movement of a slope. So both indicators, somewhat indicators that it's filled, filled over something that perhaps might be unsuitable beneath it. My fear is boulders of any sort and rock of any sort, you create a surcharge load on top of unsuitable material. You've seen, I know what I've seen before. I've seen surcharge loads and grades in real soupy areas go up 3-4 feet next to them. So really understanding what that load does to that slope, adjacent to it, could be something that's very, very important.
Absolutely. And one thing we did observe when we excavated for the septic tank, the new tank that went right next to the house, was a buried A layer. So they didn't strip top and sub before they dumped the fill.
But not peat.
That's right. So what we think, the hope is that it's settled, about a foot and a half is what top and sub was.
Just compressing the horizon.
Right, because the material beneath it was well drained. It was almost a loamy sand. So we would expect that it should be similar on the other side, but we just don't know. So that's why we added that note to the plan. We're doing the best to cover us also.
It's not a stump dump.
I don't know, but I think it's highly unlikely based on what we've seen on site already and where we have dug. There's exposed ledge on either side.
Okay.
And most of the settling seems to have occurred right behind the house.
Is there ledge on either side of the house?
There is.
Is there ledge taken out to build a house?
I don't know.
And possibly dumped in the backyard and filled over, and that's why you're getting the settlement?
And the water moving in, bringing the fines down.
It brings it down and settles?
Yeah, it could be.
It's probably a lot that shouldn't have been developed.
You know, because I have a house in which they built it on ledge, and took ledge out, put it in the backyard, and you get this, you see the settlement taking place. You know, rather than dump the ledge off-site somewhere, they basically put it in back and then put fill on top of it. And then over the years, you get the settlement that takes place. And that could be the reason why you're getting the settlement.
It very well could be. Unfortunately, we don't know the
But you
history
didn't
of
do
it.
any test pits to determine what's under?
No. In fact, we recommended if they were going to go that route, to engage a company to do a full analysis of the slope up near the house, borings.
Yeah.
So assuming suitable substrate under it, the rock on it's not going to have any surcharge effect, so to speak. The reality is you're creating a situation where you are putting a rock fill in. And yeah, there are going to be voids, and that's okay, that's what you want, so long as you're not putting any finer materials on top of that. And over
Right.
time, whatever falls out of the sky and leaches into it, whether it's leaf litter or what, that just finds its own position later on, but it doesn't affect the slope at all. That's your approach?
It is, and we're not proposing any vegetation on the slope itself. It'll remain a boulder slope, open to the elements.
And once you take the wooden fence out, what type of monumentation are you going to be replacing it with?
Right now, we're not proposing anything, but we could certainly put something down there. A lot of the 25-foot no disturb zone, at least around where the leach field went in, is wooded. That edge almost speaks for itself. The edge up here where the 25-foot is, it drops off very steep down to the wetland. We could put something there. We could just have the contractor put some they're going to have rocks. We could put a few rocks spaced out accordingly.
Do we require monuments? Do we require placards?
Placards.
Yeah, so we could just continue to monument the trees all the way around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not the type of area where anybody could easily work in.
You're not going to wheelbarrow full of, yard waste across that terrain.
No. But if that's what the commission wants, we could put something down there.
I'll just keep it consistent with the last order, if that's okay. I think we just did plaques on the trees.
Are there any abutters here? And none answered. So where are we with this now, Jen?
So this would be just to close an issue, I guess, in regards to conditions. I'll just, is there any further geotechnical consultation that you want to see?
I
Or
was questioning, I'm satisfied with the approach that they've taken. I was just making sure the things that they had considered that.
So I don't need to condition anything in that regard? Okay. So I would just recommend close and issue in 21 days.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Good luck on Monday out.
Why, thank you. I'll take a little luck.
Yeah, and maybe some better weather.
The rumor is it's going to be wet.
That's fine. Have a good night.
See you, Greg. 2421730.
So this is a culvert replacement under the train tracks, as we've seen before. A little bit different in that it's not full-on cattle crossing territory.
I brought extra sets of plans. Do you want me to pass those out? Just in case?
I think, what size plan do you have in there? Did she print you a full? Sure, it doesn't look like they have a full.
No,
You want to just make it easier?
unless, wait, maybe there is,
Oh, there is.
there are some, it looks like we got a couple.
I see you passed out the pictures.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. applicant present, since this is pretty straightforward?
Yeah. Kyle Fair from Fair Dermody Consulting, representing Keolis in this matter. I know the commission has seen a few of these actually in the past couple of years, so I don't want to go on and on. So it might be best to flip to the pictures that I think Jen just passed out in order to get an idea of what we're looking at. I know she said
What section of the, I got Exhibit G?
C.
C, okay.
Jen had indicated that this culvert is a slightly different structure than what you've seen in the past. The past structures were larger, indicated that they were of a nature that you could actually stand up in them. This is far more of a culvert-esque structure. Basically, the same thing you've seen in the past. This is a stone box culvert. It actually has various pieces of rail inverted as the roof structure, and what the railroad is looking to do is to open cut this particular piece of property, remove the existing stone masonry, both the head walls, wing walls on both sides, the abutment walls throughout the roof rails, and then insert a, I forget which size we were going with. This one was a 48-inch diameter reinforced concrete pipe. The pipe will be embedded standard 6 inches that the railroad typically does in order to provide a natural substrate bottom. It is, actually it's basically right at the edge of the airport, so it borders the Merrimack River. Obviously within the riverfront area, it does fall within bordering land subject to flooding. However, we are only slightly increasing the size of the culvert, so we're not removing any flood storage or the ability for any of the water to actually transmit back and forth across the right-of-way. And I say slightly, it's like 0.2 square feet that we've increased it by. Other than that, construction procedures are basically they will go in. It's an intermittent stream. It was dry when we were out there the other day, so it's dry most of the time. But the plan is they go in, they open cut it. A structure like this usually takes anywhere from 18 to 24 hours. Erosion and sedimentation controls will be put into place, and obviously before and will be there during construction. They will then be cleaned and removed after, but it's basically designed for a quick in and out in basically 24 hours. Other than that, I guess I'll stop and let either questions or you continue.
Yeah, I think it's fairly straightforward. The stream channel is well eroded downstream and consists of 100% knotweed. So there's not much to say about the area.
Resource?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other area that you guys looked at was very different than this, but this seems a lot more straightforward and easily permittable and very much in and out. I don't see any need for restoration. It's even hard to tell that the area is BVW, other than it's very flat in nature. There is some wetland vegetation, I'm sure some soils. There was ponding of water everywhere, so it clearly all runs off the hill from above, from GLSD and the airport, and all funnels down. This area is no longer mapped endangered species habitat along the river for bald eagle. I don't know if that's because the bald eagle is considering delisting, or if this portion of the river wasn't previously mapped. We are farther down than we were the last time. Regardless, the wetland report is thorough, and now that I've got the updated sheet where they added the bordering land subject to flooding in, I think we're good. They don't file under the bylaw, and I believe you're exempt from, do you do notification?
Oh, I did do notification.
Okay, so I did do notification, which is probably all of like 2 or 3 people.
3, I believe. Town of Andover, it might have been 2 of them. Or North Andover, excuse me.
Thank you.
Just a couple, nothing major, I don't think. Access when this work is being done, is it from the rail bed itself, or?
It is,
All right.
yeah. They'll be able to access from either side. I mean, they're open cutting it, so the entire right-of-way is shut down. There's no like trying to run one train around it or anything.
Okay, so we're going to excavate out wing walls and the head walls on either end,
Yes.
but leaving the structure, the stone structure beneath the tracks?
Nope.
Taking everything out?
Taking it because you have to, it's basically a 51-inch wide, and we're putting in a 48-inch culvert. We've got to be able to compact around that, so they will be taking.
So there isn't, that was my next question, is grouting the annual space. There's no need to, it's going to be cut and cover.
Yes.
All right. Pretty straightforward, nothing else.
My question, did you say that the 48-inch reinforced concrete pipe is more flow area or less flow area than what's existing?
Just slightly more.
Slightly more.
Currently, the cross-sectional area is 1,632 square inches. We're going with that 6-inch embedment. It restricts us to 1,679 square inches. Almost effectively the same.
And in and out in a day, did you say?
That's the idea. It's very costly to run buses around, so
Yes, yes.
faster the better.
You've got a big issue on that. Okay. I have no more questions.
No questions? Are there any butters? None answered. We're ready for a motion. I have to ask.
I actually do have one question. Does Keolis do this sort of work on their own, or are they going to contract it out to someone else?
It does get contracted out to a heavy construction firm.
Right. So the only thing we would specify is that this order of conditions be made part of that contract document?
Yes, which they are.
Okay.
This is a firm that handles at least 6, if not more, for the railroad every year, so they're very
Okay.
familiar with the process.
Jen, are you okay with the motion?
Yep, it would be to close an issue in 21 days.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. In and out in one night. 2421728, 500 Boxford Street, Andover Consultants.
So this was
Donovan.
the one that was added because they felt that we had continued to the 11th.
Right, we gave them the option
And
because they were going to...
Merrill had thought they continued to the 25th, and I had the 11th, so we just put it on just to cover the bases.
Well, just for the record, I recall, they wanted to be scheduled for the next meeting on the outside chance that they got their analysis done
Oh, okay.
of the,
So
of
they have
whether the
not,
pools
and they-
were ephemeral or not,
So
or
we're good to have
vernal.
included it.
So no big deal. So they're good to go for the next meeting.
Right, so they need to request to continue.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. It's continued. Enforcement order violation, 193 Foster Street, requesting a continuance till April 25th, 2018.
Yeah, this was a snow melt issue. They needed a delineation, and I'm meeting with the applicant, well, the owner and his representative tomorrow.
Okay,
So moved.
so that one's continued. Okay,
If you all vote unanimously.
that was a unanimous vote.
Okay.
That's what unanimous votes sound like at the end of the
Gotcha.
meeting. All right, general business. We took care of 242-1117 already, so we will go to 242-231, COC request 492 Sutton Street, hangars, Lawrence Municipal Airport. Yes, no? What did I miss?
We're going to do this one to continue.
Which one's to continue? We just continued.
242-1691 to continue to June the 13th.
What's 1691? Oh, so that's on the next page. That's after this. So we're on 242-492. I mean, you can continue it out of order if you want, but that's farther down.
We
Usually,
would normally do that, yep, to accommodate anybody that's here, any abutters that are here. So if anybody here is abutting 242-1691, that will be continued till 6/13/18, as soon as I get a motion in a second.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is unanimous for 1691
All right, so,
till 6/13/18. That'll bring us back to 242-231, COC request, Lawrence Municipal Airport. Randy's back in town.
Nice to see everybody again.
How you doing there, Randy?
Good.
You got the whole place to yourself, Randy. It's all yours.
It's like that's usual.
Well, take advantage. No wheel get in your way.
For the record, my name is Randy Christensen, environmental scientist with Stantec Consulting Services. We are the consultant of record for Lawrence Municipal Airport, and I'm here tonight to address several old, aging certificates of compliance as a matter of, for history purposes here, as part of the recent and ongoing Runway 523 Safety Area Project, which is still an active project. One of the conditions was to clean up our act and address a lot of old certificates of compliance that exist on the airport property. And the three before you tonight, and I'll start with the hangars, but the three before you tonight go back to 1984, 1989, and 1997. And the first one, 231, that is on your list is the North Ramp Hangar Association. This one was actually filed by the North Ramp Hangar Association, which has, since this filing has not ceased to exist, but has decreased in attendance and uniformity. We, as the consultant and wanting to maintain this ongoing good relationship we have with the commission, Mike Miller, the airport manager, and the airport commission have addressed Stantec to handle these, even though you're going to see that the airport was not the applicant in some of these filings. And this is one that's typical. This was the construction of 4 what we call T-hangars for small prop-driven aircraft on what we call the north ramp, or the north side, the non-terminal side of the airport. And the 4 hangars were constructed, and no as-built plan, no certificate of compliance was ever filed for. We tried to obtain the original survey data from, and it was Richard Kosminski, and his offices were closing. They're in a state of change at the moment. We could not obtain those files, so we went out and conducted our own survey based on the plan that was on file in the commission folders. And what we did is we took our survey, which is the red, and superimposed it on the proposed conditions, the approved proposed conditions of the notice of intent, and found substantial compliance between the hangar locations and the edge of pavement relative to their wetland boundary. However, in meeting with Jennifer in the field to look at this area, I was instructed to perform a new wetland delineation, this one dating back to 1984, and you're going to see that my wetland delineation is closer to the hangars, on average 10, 15 feet over the old boundary. Don't know the significance of that. Based on their old wetland boundary, we substantially met the setbacks that were mandated by the order of conditions, but the boundary I put in was quite closer to the hangars than the old boundary. Couldn't find any old flags, couldn't find any old survey data that would let me reestablish those flags with any kind of accuracy. So it's just good information to have, and now we have a better wetland boundary on file with the commission for that particular area of the airport. I was there for the entire delineation. I did provide some pictures on their photo locations just to memorialize what the conditions are right now. There is, that shows the rear of the hangars, this one in particular. Just shows the minimal amount of pavement between the rear of the hangars, the edge of the grass, then the slope that goes down to the wetland. And those were the critical survey shots that we took. We took the corners of the hangars, the edge of pavement, and then the top of slope and toe of slope, just to make sure they were as approved in the order of conditions. And so there's a lot of memorialization with this as-built plan for that area, both pictorially and survey-wise. And we have a new wetland boundary for that area as well. The as-built plan is signed and stamped by a registered professional engineer in this case. However, Dave Rich was not the one that originally proposed it. He oversaw the survey, he oversaw the making of the plan, and oversaw the comparison of the old plan and the new data. But that was the best we could do in this situation. And certainly as a case study for why to get your certificates of compliance right after the project is done and not wait 30-something years. So
that just leaves one outstanding item, which is a letter from an engineer stating that there's substantial compliance is required. So whether you want that engineer to write that letter or whether we need that letter at all based on the plan and what you see.
And I spoke to Dave Rich today because he was not the engineer of record. He would probably qualify his letter a little bit, saying exactly what I just said. This is my relation to the project, and this is what I found. And if that's suitable to the commission, Dave is definitely willing to provide that letter.
Anybody on the table that would object to that, or?
I agree with that approach.
I don't think we'd you couch it, what's it worth?
I'm hearing no letter needed. Move on.
It's
So
tough.
it would be to close and issue a final, not close, to issue a
Okay, so with
final
no
COC.
letter needed, based on the presentation before us, 242-231 is ready for a vote.
Before we go to the vote, I'm just kind of curious. So the new wetland line we have is just a courtesy for information moving forward. It's got nothing to do with,
I forget what our discussion was in the field about this, whether
I
it
had to
was
do that
silver
wetland
pond-
boundary for there's two of the COCs.
Right, so there's some other information that was needed about a restoration.
Yes.
This isn't,
No, that's the next.
on a different,
the
on a
next
different
one.
filing.
Yeah.
so I'm not sure
I'm more
with
clear on
with
that.
this why we were delineating. I don't know that we required
It's great to have it.
Or maybe it became part of the
We
other.
we agreed that we wanted it for this project, but I thought it was because because we couldn't establish the old boundary. We thought my delineation would be coterminous with that old one.
I guess it
The
wasn't
problem
really
is
knowing
it
what
wasn't.
information that we had. Randy and I met up there last year sometime, so it's gone.
So we're not missing something. There's no purpose in this issuing a compliance.
It maybe did, but
Okay.
we'd have to
Nice to have.
pull out the tape recorder.
Delineation and have it for the record.
And I'm also happy to find, I hadn't been back there in a while.
It may just have
It's in-
been that if we didn't have survey data, that they could kind of pull tapes and maybe just prove compliance that way.
And because the boundaries are so different, we can't.
Right, so.
And that's what came of it. But we're also happy to report that this area is actually in very good shape, slopes in great shape. There's there's no litter or anything like that. You're not pushing snow down the lanes into this wetland or anything like that. It's good to get back there and actually see this part of the airport. I hadn't been back there in a while, so, for what it's worth.
Was the motion made? I'm sorry, I know we interrupted.
I'm looking for, if the questions are all answered, 242-231 COC request is ready for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to grant the COC request for 492 Sutton Street hangars. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. There's one down. 242-491, a COC request for taxiway E construction.
Taxiway Echo. This one goes down the east side of our crosswind runway. And this notice of intent was filed in response to an enforcement action by the commission. The consultant and airport management went on with the construction of Taxiway Echo without a notice of intent. Found it to be in violation. A notice of intent was required. In the preparation of that notice of intent, it was discovered that wetlands had been impacted by sedimentation from the Taxiway Echo construction. And as a part of that, they worked through the compliance and the notice of intent process. The one item that was remaining from the project was the wetland restoration site. That wetland restoration site, I never found any notes that it had been inspected or approved by the commission. And so we met out in the field, inspected the site where it was supposed to be. We surveyed, I delineated the wetland where it would exist today using today's delineation techniques, and found that in the area where the wetland restoration was supposed to be, the order of conditions required 1,245 square feet, and in the area where the restoration was supposed to occur, it was 1,335 square feet. So we found in excess the wetland in that area. It used to be an upland area. They created the wetland. The biggest difference is in the planting plan. They were supposed to have planted it with fully cattails, 200 plugs of cattails. We found now, since 1989, when this was done, it's grown substantially with native wetland shrubs and some good native wetland ground cover as well, sensitive fern. jewelweed, we have some arrowwood in there, and we have some good silky dogwood as well. So the cover type has changed, but because it's a forested situation now, you couldn't really get a good cattail stand in there, and probably, in my opinion, probably in better shape with the vegetation that's in there now relative to a pure cattail stand. So well vegetated, stabilized, it's down to the wetland grade, slopes are stable. I've delineated it and certified that we do have that in excess of the amount that was required in that area. And we believe that is the final aspect of the Taxiway E project that required some documentation. And so we're requesting the certificate of compliance for that project.
I was somewhat confused by the order, which approves parts of the plan, but not parts of the plan, and I don't really know what parts of the plan were approved or not approved.
89.
89.
89, so that predates all of us.
Does that predate you too?
Me too. I didn't come
Okay.
on till 90.
So,
Wow.
you know,
Predates us as the consultant
That's
Right.
as well.
I'm with you.
yeah, the next one is the first one that Stan Tech's name is on, but,
So let's see if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, or?
I guess the only question is, I know it's only a taxiway, and it's not at the end of a runway, is it? It's adjacent to.
It's a parallel taxiway, correct? Yeah.
Right, so the stand of vegetation that's in there, is that going to be vulnerable to future pruning and cutting?
Not at all. In fact, the impact was from a drainage way they installed as part of Taxiway E, so it's a good 300 feet off the taxiway in an area where there would never be any threat of airport development.
So we got a good stand now and forever.
We're not in violation of FAA Part 7 here?
No, not in that area. That's
All right,
behind the
very good.
hangars. It's actually right behind the North Ramp hangars.
You laugh, but Part 7 is what regulates all the tree growth around everything. That's the
As we
dreaded-
well know, don't we?
We know that one. We learned Part 7 inside out.
By heart.
That's right. Any questions
don't
from
worry,
anybody?
Randy will be discussing that too.
Deb's got a question.
I wanted to ask Jen, what would be the purpose of just planting cattails?
Well,
You said like them.
I mean, cattails are generally going to take over everything anyway, but I don't know that there's enough water in this particular area to have supported cattails, so
They need water.
a lot, yeah, they're usually within standing.
They were easy and cheap. I remember doing some of the first mitigation sites back in the early 80s, and we'd always used cattail because
Yeah, unless they
there was
were
not a
thinking-
wetland plants available.
Unless
back
they were
then.
also thinking along the lines of never needing to, manage it. So if you planted it,
There's actually a couple still alive in there.
there was a very small area of cattails, but clearly not all cattails.
Thank you.
Okay, 242-491 COC request. I need a motion.
So moved.
So this has the same issue about the certified letter, so as long as you agree it isn't needed.
So do we have the same opinion? Are we of the-
Same
Okay,
opinion.
same opinion is, no letter not needed, so I'm looking for I have a motion and a second. To issue the COC for Taxiway E as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. 242-872, a COC request for Taxiway B as in Bravo. Randy?
This one we agreed on. Well, this one's even a better spin than the first two, even though this is one of the newer ones, 1997. This was a Dufresne Henry project, and as you know, Dufresne Henry got bought out by Stantec, and we've since become Stantec. So this is the runway 5 end, which is where your old offices used to be over here, and the sewage treatment plant is right up here. So here's you can see in red right here is the 5 end. When we did this project, we used to have this huge run-up area. I mean, that was a couple acres worth of pavement. We used to have a very wide taxiway pavement going to that end as well. This project was actually a huge pavement reduction project. So rebuild that pavement, or reduce it where the gray is, it got reduced all the way to these edges. So where the gray is, what we did is when we surveyed for the recent 523 project, the one we just built, we took that survey, superimposed it on the proposed conditions from this project, and that red is where the pavement was after this project was done, showing almost exact compliance with the limits that we said we were going to cut it back to. The red contours are where the topo was after this project was done, and the black were the proposed contours. We did have drainage to this catch basin, but they weren't perfectly parallel that you see right there. There was some difference in those contours. Drainage went where it's supposed to. They just weren't that good, graduated, perfect separation and contours that we showed on here.
pavement limits, grass limits and everything all matched up very well. This project though, the new runway end is actually way back here now because of the safety area, and this whole taxiway system got pulled back as well. Because as you remember, for the current 523 project, we shifted everything so we could fit that safety area and avoid wetlands down at the other runway end. So all this pavement and all this grading that you see here has now been wiped out by the current project. So we're asking for compliance for something that now has been superseded by a very current design project, which just got constructed. So what this plan does is it shows that the interim condition of Taxiway Bravo, which was renamed Taxiway Alpha in the meantime, we did do that pavement reduction. We did it as was proposed on the plan. Substantial compliance with the grading of that, and the project was done. And now it's gone, and has been, the next COC we'll ask for when 523 project is finally stabilized. Will show you the permanent condition of this area. But this was actually pulling pavement away from wetland boundaries, things like that. It was overall a positive project, reduction in impervious surface, moving further away from wetlands, and our as-built shows that it was done according to plan.
So this was requested a COC in 2011, which we did have in the file, and I'm guessing why it wasn't granted was because the COC that was submitted was basically the proposed plan all marked up. And so we
Yes,
probably handed that back to them and said, get us a real as-built, which we now have, thanks to this work that was just done. But we do have the engineering letter.
Yeah, this one we could do because the engineer that
Well, no, it was submitted in 2011.
11, that was Jeff, and Jeff's no longer with us.
Yeah, but it does say, and
It's on the record.
it's clear.
But David Rich, who designed the 523 and built 523, he's the one responsible for this topographical survey, this as-built survey. And so if a letter's needed, Dave can definitely issue one for this project. But yeah, this conditions have substantially changed out there, since this one as well. So this is just cleaning up some administrative files, and we'll get you a good overall topo condition of this end when we do the as-built for the 523 project.
So this is an easy one.
Close it out.
Any questions? Anybody moved?
Move that we grant.
Motion and a second to grant the COC request for 242872 Taxiway Bravo. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is unanimous. Looks like you cleaned house there, Randy.
Better than expected.
Am I allowed to bring up one issue that we're going to be addressing on the 25th? And
Sure.
it's a question I have. We are going to be entertaining closing out the vegetation management plan from 2006, 2007.
Okay.
We have before us an opportunity through Mass DOT to obtain some more vegetation maintenance funds to maintain the areas that were approved under the vegetation management areas that were approved in the 2006 order.
Sure.
We want to pursue getting those funds, and I would be heading up the project. It would be maintaining according to the rules that we established in that vegetation management plan, and only within the limits that were approved in that order of conditions. I don't know that I'm looking for an answer tonight, but I wanted to plant the seed in your minds as to whether or not that would require a filing or not, maintaining to what we said we would maintain to in that vegetation management plan.
Let me ask Jen, that's VMPs, they expire just like an order of conditions?
Yeah, generally VMPs get 5 years that you have to redo a delineation. The VMP itself can be,
Those yearly operational plans, you can
Or
extend it
every
in
5.
every 5 years, you do a YOP.
right, you have to do it, and you have to do a new delineation every 10? There's regulations around it, but initially you generally have to file an RDA to do the initial one.
So we did that order of conditions back in 2006, which expired around 2011-ish. It's my understanding.
Was there any kind of ongoing maintenance condition?
So there is talk of it in the order of conditions, and maybe, since I've planted the idea, if I go over the particulars with Jennifer in the meantime, and I present a more articulated, detailed presentation to you.
What we'd like is for you to come in agreement with Jen.
All right.
And then that makes our job A lot easier.
Okay, that's what I'll do then. All right, I'll do that, and I'll have more to report on
If
the
you, I mean,
25th.
you know, that's what we're going to always side with our experts on.
Sure,
Come in a united front.
all right,
All right?
So we'll talk about it.
deal.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, and I'll see everyone on the 25th.
Randy,
for
thanks.
some more. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, unless I'm wrong here, I have 242-1714, a minor modification for 865 Johnson.
Yes, so I told Tom he didn't need to come because, let me just find the most recent. So this went, after you approved these 2 lots on Johnson Street, they went before the planning board for land disturbance because, as you recall, there were also 2 lots without Conservation Commission jurisdiction, making more than an acre of disturbance. The 2 lots you reviewed, not more than an acre, so, but with the addition of the other 2 lots, this is more than an acre. So the planning board reviewed it, and more work, thank you, wound up in your jurisdiction. Mainly, there's a grassed bioretention area, as you can see, in the 50-foot no-build zone. There always was an outlet. There is now sort of a riprap apron on that bioretention. Previously, the roof drainage went out there, and now you have the roof drainage going to the bioretention area, which has an overflow. There's also, just trying to see, I think that there's another infiltrator off on the side here. So there have been the 2 plans, both Lot 1 and Lot 2, have additional stormwater structures on them, mostly LID type to handle single-family house lot drainage. I had him send them to DEP as well, but I think they're both minor, very minor, and obviously improvements to the plan.
If something that was being proposed at the time of the NOI, we would have included them, we would have approved them.
We would have, I'm sure you would have approved them. Things
We
like.
might have even asked for them.
Right. So again, you can see the infiltrator on this second lot. And these similar things were done for the 2 lots outside of your jurisdiction. So I believe Mr. Zarico has purchased the right to develop the 2 that are in your jurisdiction, and will be moving forward with that. But he wanted to make sure that the record plan was the same on all fronts. So this is the plan the planning board approved, and now would become the record plan for our file.
Any questions?
Are those the septic systems out in front by Mill Road?
Yes,
Okay.
the septic systems were outside of the 100-foot buffer zone
Yep.
in the front of the lots.
Okay. No more questions.
Any questions down here?
No question.
No questions. I hear no questions. I see no abutters. Jen, what do you want?
Just vote to approve the minor modification to 242-1714.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is unanimous.
So, I don't know that we need to vote on 209 Vestway, because long ago you voted to issue 2 certificates of compliance to the 2 very, or partial certificates of compliance to the 2 very old orders. The signed copies were not in the file to give to somebody to prove, but they had been voted.
Yeah.
We had the printed copy, they just weren't signed, so,
Just send them around at the end,
There'll be
send them around
signatures,
at the end of the meeting.
okay, that's that.
242-1729, 213 Berry Street.
So this is the order you approved this evening.
So the one you're circulating now bears the date from that other, the prior action, not tonight's date.
Let me see how she filled them out. I think that she just actually put the forms that were in the file, made copies, and put them in here.
Oh.
Let me just look to make sure. Richmond, Oxford, Berry, Salem, Deer Meadow, Keolis, 65 Johnson, 214 Berry, Hanger. I think They must be the original, because I think they're just the files, because I don't see them here. Oh, we can figure that out. I think it's,
We don't need to do that on the record right now, right?
I just don't want to sign the sheet that has, if it has tonight's date, a mistake on it.
Oh, I got you. I got you. Yeah, point well taken.
That's
Okay,
right out.
we'll give it, we'll give it a minute and see what's,
we're not voting to reissue because the vote's already been taken.
Right.
So I'll make sure they're dated.
That's what I'm saying, make sure it bears the
I
prior
don't actually
date.
see them here, so I'm a little worried that she didn't include them.
okay,
we'll
but that's,
figure it out.
that's not an agenda item.
No.
We can move right past it right now.
Right.
Okay, so we will move past it, and we will go to the decision, which is 2421729.
Yes. So this is a reconstruction and connection to sewer, driveway project, removal of a shed, some minor restoration.
We don't have
don't
any,
have it.
we don't have any decisions here.
Okay.
Nope, I don't see any.
No, we didn't get any. I
All right. Karen,
Jack did a thorough search.
whoever wants to start reviewing, and then
Okay.
I can review.
One of you can review on behalf of the commission. Well, we'll pass this, we're going to pass the responsibility down.
Yes, they had.
Yeah. Last man standing gets the review.
So with the
That's right.
review,
So the special conditions included me citing all of the provisions for the mowing, you know, the plan notes.
So the annual
Yep, I
mowing.
believe I put the bond at
Monumentation.
2,000, monumentation on posts, cleanup of the debris.
Yep,
I just put monitoring of 1 year for the vegetation in there.
yep.
I didn't think for just a couple plants that they needed to be monitoring that for 2 whole years after they were done.
No, 1
the
year.
debris, the nature of it, it's just hand picking.
Yep, removal by hand. Their plan notes are immaculate. They
Okay.
sent me a draft, we did a little revision. So I'd say everything else in there is pretty standard. There's no stormwater, they're paving the driveway. You did tell them that if they needed to do foundation work for building that second floor on the house, that they would need to come back if there was
Yes.
gonna be earthwork. So there's nothing in there about that.
You wouldn't normally condition it, just, you know, that's a
Well, I mean, if we
requirement.
had said it could
Yeah.
happen, but
Yeah.
we didn't, so.
No, that's good. We
Yeah.
should, that's good we call that out, though. But I think they're fixing it up.
Looks pretty standard to me.
Fine.
All right,
Any questions from anybody on the board? There, none. I need a motion for 2421729, 213 Berry Street on this order of conditions.
Move that we issue as drafted.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Issued as drafted. I see nothing else on the agenda.
correct.
Motion to adjourn.
Look at you.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 It's unanimous. We're adjourned.